Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality, and today we are making an altered tag for the new line of junk journals that I will have out pretty soon here. It is a botanical theme. Each journal will be different as far as the colorway and the fabric and things on the inside. This one right now that I'm making is this butterfly with the beautiful turquoise and green. I have this beautiful butterfly fabric. I believe it is vintage, and then a vintage doily there. And then, as you can see, I haven't sewn it together or put the ties or anything on it. It's in the preliminary stages here with all the pages. Throughout, I have not put any of the trims or anything. I just have the papers together as I want them, getting ready to sew, and then my next step will be to put the pick out the trims and all that. So I just wanted you to see that. Here is what I'm going to use to make this tag. I have this Flashcard, it's a vintage one. I have this beautiful napkin here with the butterfly on it. I have a doily that matches the colors, some ribbon, and then I have some scraps of the fabric that is on the cover. And then I have these vintage laces. I'm not using the orange, that just happens to be on this card here, but I believe I will use this cream, both of these here. And then what the tools that I'm using, I have some glue, I have a paintbrush because I'm going to use some Mod Podge on the napkin part. I have my scissors, and I also have a hole punch. So if you want to go along, get some craft supplies and craft with me, that would be so much fun, or you could just sit here and watch and get some inspiration. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out the butterfly from this beautiful napkin. I believe this was from my friend Crystal, and she is happy to plan here on YouTube. We had done a swap earlier, and it was a spring swap, but since I'm doing these botanical journals, I thought this would be perfect because it goes perfectly with the fabric that I'm using on the cover of this one. So I'm just cutting out one of the butterflies, and then I'm going to cut even closer around the edge. Keeping the two layers of the napkin together because it's easier to cut, but once I go to Mod Podge it onto the card, I'm going to pull off the top layer and just Mod Podge the top layer on it. Kind of leaving the little antenna on there. I don't want them to break off, so I'm just leaving quite a bit of that cream color around it, or around them. Now I'm going to take my pieces and I'm going to try and lay out and see where I want each piece to go. I have that turquoise doily down there, and I just want a little corner of that on the bottom. And I want to include a piece of this scrap fabric from my cover along the bottom, and at first I cut a smaller piece out and kind of laid it across, and I decided I wanted to sew a little fabric ruffle to go across the bottom. So later I do that. I tore off a longer piece and then went over to my sewing machine. So I thought maybe I would I wanted just a little square and to layer that, but I didn't like that. I'm going to make a little slit in my fabric and tear off. I had to make that edge even, and so now I'm going to cut about an inch little piece of that fabric. I just make the sliver and then tear it off. And then I'll go over to my sewing machine and sew that into a little ruffle that's about the width of that card. And I believe the card is probably about 3.5 inches wide. I'm going to use my Mod Podge and go ahead and lay out the butterfly and the doily in those positions that I have them there. So I'm just going to use my brush for the doily and paint some on the card. I think this is the easiest without getting it really messy. The doily, I just put the Mod Podge on the bottom. I didn't go over the top of the doily, which you could as well. This was a matte finish Mod Podge, but when I do the butterfly, the napkin, I usually Mod Podge over the top of the napkin just because it's so delicate. So make sure that all the little bubbles are out just by smoothing it with your finger, and then trim off the excess pieces. Pull apart your napkin so you have that top layer. I'm still trying to decide on that fabric at the bottom. I thought maybe I was going to glue it down there, but then I still haven't decided if that's what I wanted to include there. So now I'm just painting on my Mod Podge. I'm putting down kind of a shape of a butterfly, and then I'll stick it down, and any remaining areas that need to be glued, I'll just add glue underneath the petals or the wings. And I do go ahead and paint over the top as well. And of course with Mod Podge, the white just dries clear, so it doesn't matter. But you do need to be careful because the napkin, when it starts to soak up the Mod Podge, it can rip if you press down really hard or saturate it too much. I did decide to sew up a little ruffle with a zigzag stitch on my machine. I just tore a piece of the fabric that was probably about twice as long as, or twice as wide as the card itself, and then did like bunched up the fabric and sewed it down the middle there. I love this little vintage lace here. It's an eyelet lace that has holes in it that you can string ribbon in. So I went ahead and cut that piece down to size there, and then I have that skinny turquoise ribbon on the side, and I wove that through the holes. Now I'm just using my tacky glue, and I'm going to glue that lace down on the side there. And I'm also going to glue down the fabric ruffle. I'd like to add a strip of the fabric at the top for the tie. So I'm just going to tear off that, probably about a 1-inch wide little strip. And I'm making it probably about 5 inches long, 5 or 6 inches long. Kind of fraying off the edges to make it a little shabby. Then I'll use my crocodile and punch a hole at the top. You can use a regular hole punch as well. I'll have a link down below. If you don't have a crocodile, this is the greatest thing because you can punch through several layers or a thick layer like chipboard or something like that, and it makes it really easy. I pulled that fabric through, and I'm going to use the thin turquoise ribbon to tie around. I made a double knot. Then just trim off the edges. Now for a finishing touch, I'm going to use some of the Vintage Photo Distress ink and distress around the edges of the card. I really love how this tag turned out. I hope you did too. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and subscribe. Head on over to Instagram, as I will be posting sneak peeks of these journals and also letting you know when they will be up in my shop. Follow me and favorite my shop on Etsy and check out the other things that I have in my shop right now. This is Kim with Creative Crafticality. Bye. God bless.